Good morning, good afternoon, good evening YouTube, it's your Slime King, the Gym Man, and welcome to another video. What you're seeing right now is a Yelan with an unlikely build. A pairing spawned from its forefathers before it. It's a team and build that's by definition out of this meta and out of this world. But it's surprisingly good, and I can't help but shout out, Thundering Fury Yelan can't be this good.
Only innocent children and timid adults are scared of thunder. But you're not either of those, are you?
4-piece Thundering Fury set bonus states that it increases electro-related reaction damage, and triggering those said reactions will reduce the E cooldown by 1 second. It can only occur once every 0.8 seconds. Wait. But this is an electro set. How can it possibly work for Yelan? Well, my friend, the Thundering Fury set has already been shown to work on Bennett and Kazuha to varying successes. It has spawned TF Bennett and TF Kazuha teams that are one of the most fun teams in the game. In order to understand how TF Yelan works, we must examine what conditions need to be met in order for the Thundering Fury set to work. Thundering Fury works when these 3 conditions are met. 1. You must be able to proc an electro-related reaction. 2. You must take consistent ownership of proccing that electro reaction while being on field. And lastly, the reduction in E cooldown benefits the rotations of those teams. In TF Bennett, the ability to spam his E as he procs overload when an electro aura is applied makes him one of the best candidates for using this set. As long as there is an electro aura on the enemy and you're standing in Bennett's burst, you will reduce Bennett's cooldown to essentially 0. In TF Kazuha, as long as Hydro and Electro are on the enemy, every time Kazuha procs a swirl reaction, it will reduce his E cooldown. In both of these teams, Pyro can proc Overload and Anemo can proc Electro Charge via swirls. Both take consistent ownership of the reaction, and in their rotations, it makes sense to spam their skills off cooldown. Now that we understand how to make a TF team work, let's apply it to the armpit lady herself, Yelan. The first condition, she can proc an electro reaction by applying Hydro and Electro, whether that be through her charge shot, her lifelines, or her exquisite throws. The second condition, if there is an overwhelming electro aura present, such as with C6 Fischl, or Fischl Beidou or Fischl Yai pairings, she can consistently take ownership of proccing that reaction. Remember, the unit must be the one to proc the reaction while on field in order to reduce their own E cooldowns. The third condition, the rotations fit nicely with her teams. In order to understand this last point, we must understand how a rotation works with Thundering Fury Yelan. Let's take a look at a Yelan Kazuha Fischl Beidou team for example. The rotation starts off simply by using Fischl's E, then swirl Electro with Kazuha, then switch back to Fischl to Q, then EQ with Beidou. Yelan then proceeds to E, then Q. It is important to use Yelan skills in this order because your Q applies Hydro. If you use E, then Q, you get an extra proc of the TF bonus, reducing your E cooldown. Once the setup for the rotation is done, you simply N2 on Yelan to repeatedly proc Electro Charged while weaving in Kazuha swirls. Since Yelan does a snapshot anyway, it does not matter whether or not you swirl Hydro at the start of the rotation, and when Yelan is used in this way, she wants to be on field as much as possible to abuse Beidou's burst, and with her being on field majority of the time, you can spam her E to your heart's content, and thus fulfilling the third condition. A bad TF team to further amplify my point is TF Hu Tao. With Hu Tao, Sencho, Fischl Beidou, Hu Tao can take consistent ownership of an electro reaction in overload, and she is on field majority of the time. However, by the time her pyro infusion is ended, her E is back up again. The problem is you don't want to E again because you want to rotate through everyone else's burst before using Hu Tao's E again. This is a similar case to Ayato, and this illustrates the difference between a good TF team and a bad one. Yelan does not have an infusion-based skill that ends when you switch out. Therefore, she can E freely, so as long as she keeps proccing Electro Charged. and when Fischl and Beto's electro application run out, you can switch out without any consequence while still abusing Thundering Fury's cooldown reduction. I've spent a lot of time explaining how it works in this video, but as the title suggests, why is it so good then? It is because of Depth Clarion Dice's effect. It can be triggered each time Yelan's E lifeline explodes. So the logic that when you're using your E, you are not proccing her burst to its fullest, what could have been TF Yelan's greatest flaw is gone. This means that there is close to no downtime in proccing an exquisite throw, thus maximizing her damage. Another advantage is that you can run significantly less ER on her as she keeps producing an insane amount of particles. Instead of doing a maximum of 2 E's per rotation, you are doing 3 to 4 per rotation. That is an extra 6 to 8 hydro particles being fed to this mommy. She has 3 ways to proc an electrocharge reaction: her lifeline, her exquisite throw, and her breakthrough barb. This adds a little bit of complexity to her rotation, as you can decide to use a breakthrough barb for a little bit more AoE damage, compared to just doing N2 at the trade-off of doing less damage. I'm not going to deny, alternating between her skill, her burst, and her charge attack almost ad infinitum is a pleasure I never thought I would experience with Yelan. The real kicker through this whole TF Yelan showcase is I'm not even using a Hydro Goblet. Yes, you heard it right, I do not have an HP Sands for my TF set, and thus I was forced to use an attack goblet in order to make the set work. And yet, even with obviously not the right goblet, TF Yelan still manages to work, and work really well. It's a testament to how well she synergizes with this set, and it actually even has more potential if you have the right main stats on. Her best weapons in these teams become Aqua, Simulacra, Stringless, and Fading Twilight in that order. Viridescent Hunt can also be a real good viable option, as it provides some good CC, especially if you're not going to run an Anemo unit for some reason. Weapons with energy recharge substats become slightly less valuable, as Yelan's ER requirements shift dramatically. From her usual 200% ER recommendations and above, she can run anywhere to as low as 130 to 140 ER, and that is very workable in substats. The less ER you have, the more Fading Twilight becomes a better option. However, High Refined Stringless is simply too good to ignore, as you are spamming your skill a lot in these teams, and Aqua Simulacra is simply her best in slot. Sack Bow deserves a special mention, while it does provide another E proc and provides a fun way to just spam her E even more. In TF Yelan Teams, it is simply better to use Stringless or any other bow that gives damage percent, because the point of TF is already reducing your E cooldown, and thus it doesn't make sense to double down on it when your E cooldown is already being decreased by so much. Now I'm sure you are raring to try out TF Yelan Teams right now, provided you actually farm that domain. So here are a couple of variations of TF Yelan Teams that fulfill all the requirements to make the TF set work. The first one is Yelan, Kazuha, Fischl, and Beto. This team has an overwhelming Electro Aura with a popular Fischl-Beto pairing, which allows Yelan to claim full ownership of the Electro reaction. Electro Resonance provides just enough energy for Yelan to burst off cooldown, and it has the buffing potential of Kazuha as he swirls both Hydro and Electro, and the rotation makes on-field Yelan an outright monster. The second variation is Yelan, Sincho, C6 Fischl, and Kazuha. The main crux of what makes this team work is C6 Fischl. C6 Fischl applies enough Electro so that Yelan can still reliably proc Electro Charge herself. Sincho in this team provides more energy, thus lessening Yelan's ER requirements even more. Any of the teams I just mentioned can be run with Venti instead of Kazuha as an Anemo unit. With that being said, Thundering Fury Yelan has been an absolute joy to play. It's honestly one of the most fun teams in the game right now, and if you have a TF set available, I urge each and every one of you to try it out for yourself. This is an experience that truly makes the combat system in Genshin Impact fun. Tell me what you think down in the comments below, or better yet, come at me over at twitch.tv/TheGimaman, where I stream Genshin almost every day. Join the Slime Kingdom Discord, where I feed you slime condensate every day. This is our parting. Farewell.